Hello, this is the lecture for Ancient and Medieval History for Friday, the 11th of December, 2020. We had left Alexander the Great's empires in shattered Diadochi kingdoms, but his idea of Hellenism would become a triumph, one of the greatest ideas of the ancient world, one of the longest lived, one that is still very much alive and well with us, among other things, with Christianity, combining the best of the West with the best of the East to have something new and better. We're going to look now at Greek culture, and we'll start with politics. First off, a lot of Americans think that we are a democracy, yet I hope by seeing the differences between Athens' constitution and the United States, you will see that we are actually a representative federal constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. Democracy involves the direct participation of citizens, not in electing leaders, but in making decisions. And we don't do that. Now, the Greek word for democracy comes from the root words demo, which means people, and kratia, which means rulership. Demos, people, kratia, rulership. Democratia, the rulership of or by the people. That is democracy. Now, Solon comes up with a constitution designed to reduce corruption, but Cleisthenes comes up with a constitution that provides direct democracy. We've talked about this. Greek warfare also is something you should be pretty familiar with. The heavy infantry, hoplite soldier with their heavy metal-reinforced shield, their breastplate, their greaves, their helmet, on foot with a spear in phalanx formation, 7-foot spear. That is the classical Greek way of battle. It is particular to the Mediterranean world that instead of having skirmishes and guerrilla warfare, you have main armies clash in direct open battle, and the winner who wins the field often wins the war. So heavy infantry is the way Greeks typically fight. Alexander the Great expands this, and you'll see this in some of the clips that I have that I'm going to want you to watch in addition to today's brief lecture. Now we come to philosophy. Philosophy comes from the root words philo and sophia. Philo means love. So if you ever know of a guy named Philo, his name means love. Just don't belabor it. It's obnoxious. Philo or philo, love. Sophia is wisdom. So if you know anyone named Sophie or Sophia, her name means wisdom. You can belabor that. It's not obnoxious. At least I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong, Sophia. So Sophia, philo, the love of wisdom. That is philosophy. But what philosophy really is thinking about the world. Not thinking about the world. No. That's other things. Thinking about how you're going to think about the world. I'll give you an example of what this is sort of like. It's called metacognition. It's thinking about thinking. Every couple is different, and my marriage is basically one marriage of many, and it works for my wife and I, and, no comparison. But what I'm saying is we've been together since 1985. So that's, let's see, 15 plus 20 is 35 years. That's a long time for people our age. So why are we still together? One of the reasons is we know how to argue. We have spent a lot of time with one another talking about how we're going to fight. And we have these conversations when we're calm, not when we're in the middle of a problem. This would not work for everyone. This certainly, wouldn't work even for most people, but it works for us. So that when we get angry at one another over the difference of opinion we have, we are very careful to argue without getting personal or nasty. And most of the time we pull it off. What that means is we argue about the problem. We argue about the disagreement. We do not start lashing out at one another and attacking and ripping at one another. That's stupid. At least as far as we're concerned, as far as I'm concerned. If you love someone, you're in a marriage with them, you're in a friendship with them. You don't hurt them promiscuously. I know on television it's common for families to just rip at one another. I don't understand that. I don't understand how or why a family would stay together when all they do is insult one another. Every family is different. Every relationship is different. What I don't understand is epic. But arguing without working on ground rules is risky. It's dangerous because it's all too easy for a human being to get angry because somebody disagrees with them. And because you want what you want for the right reasons, you think that somebody who disagrees with you must be somebody that needs to be defeated. If you pull that stuff with your loved ones and your friends too often, they're not going to be that close to you anymore. And it'll be for obvious reasons. Philosophy is like that. You're less thinking about the physical world or the human world or the world of ideas. You're thinking about how you're going to think about them. You think about what you're going to use as your terms and how you're going to test your ideas and what you're ultimately going to argue. Philosophy is where the scientific method comes from. Philosophy is what gives the scientific method its clarity. So, the love of wisdom. Now, the first group of philosophers that we'll talk about, and the only group we'll talk about today, are called the Sophists. These are the wise guys. The Sophists are the wise guys. They run a flim-flam where basically you've got traveling philosophers like a traveling medicine show back in the Old West, like traveling comedians today who do stand-up, which is an amazing art. The Sophists go around from agora to agora, from polis to polis, arguing about ideas. But what Sophists often will do is they'll play games with ideas like silly putty. They'll stretch them out. They'll distort them. They'll create arguments that are kind of silly because made you think. These wise guys get paid by how much the crowd is excited by what they say or likes what they say. Sophistry, S-O-P-H-I-S-T-R-Y, is the abuse of philosophy. And it comes from the Sophists, because these wise guys will use philosophy and logic to pretzelify reality, to turn reality upside down, backwards, and reflect it like in a mirror. There is logic that is useful and that works. And then there is logic that makes no sense. And it is the latter form, the sort of logic abuse, philosophy abuse, that many Sophists engage in order to win the crowd and make a living. It's almost like a combination of philosophy and comedy. Now, there are two reactions that the Sophists often got. One is the reaction of the Cynic. The Cynic, somebody who is cynical, suspects the possibility that what this person is saying is nonsense. For example, if I said, and this isn't a philosophical argument, I have swampland that I want to sell you in Florida, it'll be really good for a winter home, you might suspect that I'm full of nonsense, that my intentions are bad, that I might be deceiving or trying to lie to you in order to get you to buy a bunch of useless swampland. You might suspect it. You might suspect that if somebody says, hey, beautiful weather outside, they might be telling the truth or they might be wrong. So a cynic would go over to the window or the door and peek out and see for themselves. A cynic suspects that what they're being told might be false. A skeptic, oh, for the love of God. Okay, all of the things I just said apply to skeptics, not cynics. So I'll say it clear. Mr. Genorio. Yeah, well, I'm not going to do another video. I'm doing this video and you can figure it out. A skeptic assumes that what somebody says to them may be untrue, and a skeptic will try to check it out. A skeptic will say, you think weather's great outside? That's good. I'm glad you think that, and peek out the window or out the door themselves. A skeptic suspects the possibility that what they're being told isn't quite kosher, isn't quite true, and they are going to check for themselves. Now, a cynic, C-Y-N-I-C, which is different from a skeptic. A cynic knows that what is being told to them is designed to play them like a fool, to treat them like an idiot, to manipulate and use them. A cynic knows that when somebody says nice weather out, they're trying to get something from you. They're trying to trick you. They're trying to make fun of you. Or cynics are paranoid. They look around and they wonder, how is the world out to get me now? How is the world out to get me now? A cynic knows that since people are selfish and have selfish motivations, what they are told is suspect and probably a distortion or just outright false. A skeptic will test, a cynic will disbelieve. And those reactions are provoked by the sophistry of sophists who play games with philosophy for profit. We will continue with philosophy and Socrates next week. There are several clips from the movie Alexander that I want you to see. Even if you saw a clip in class, it was a lousy clip. So see all of them and look at the mosaic image that I'm sending to give you a sense of how Alexander's army fights and how it was kind of different. And while the movie Alexander is certainly rightly thought to be a problem, this battle scene that you're going to see in several clips is amazing, and it's very well done. I'm going to be out of commission, or should I say unavailable, out of communication, from Thursday afternoon until Monday morning. Have a good weekend.